Cinema Recall is available everywhere you find great podcasts.
The hell was that?
It's our voice promo guy.
Follow them on Facebook and Instagram under Cinema Recall Podcast and on Twitter at Cinema_Recall.
Vern, can we afford to have a voiceover guy?
We can't afford not to. He used to be a voice guy for movie trailers, but now he just follows me around and gives me movie trailer narration.
That's really sad.
What? Now we're giving him purpose in life. He now has a reason to go on.
Check out past episodes at cinemarecall.net. Promise it's fun!
I'm Bo Maddox.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
I'm Billy. I'm Mark. And Law.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Collateral Cinema and...
Abyss Gazing, a horror podcast.
Welcome to Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters, where we focus on good movies, bad movies, and everything else in between in the world of cinema. We are podcasting straight from somewhere in South Texas. And yes, my friends, we are a 420 friendly podcast. So whatever you have, be it dabs, blunts, bongs, or joints, smoke it if you've got it. And welcome to our 2024 holiday/Christmas special. This is our annual collaboration with the Abyss Gazing podcast, as you heard at the beginning of the episode. We have the guys from Abyss Gazing with us right now. How y'all doing, fellas?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Oh, definitely.
I need a nap, but I'm here.
Absolutely.
Hey, man, I pulled an all-nighter, and that's not the first time this week. So I've just been trying to, just shovel in as much as content as I can, like video games, movies, like consuming media that I need to for the podcast.
It's been a busy week.
It's been a busy week, man. And I'm taking care of my daughter during the day or working remote. And then, so yeah, it's a busy time of year. We're all a little tired, but hey, here we are. Yep. Bo and I are under one roof again for the holidays, which is nice.
That's always fun.
And always fun to collaborate with our friends at Victims and Villains Podcast Network.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hell yeah. Josh, I like your I like your Terrifier cup.
Ooh,
Gotta throw it out there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Celebration of all things art.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes, we are rounding out our coverage of the Terrifier franchise with Terrifier 3, the new movie from Damien Leone, of course, starring Lauren Lavera, Elliot Fulham, and David Howard Thornton, and also Chris Jericho is in there, and Tom Savini and whatnot. But yeah, this time around they decided to make this into a good old-fashioned goddamned Christmas slasher, which we just talked about Black Christmas on the Abyss Gazing side of things, which is interesting. So we kind of have this little byline where we're going with Christmas slashers. So I guess we will go ahead and get into Terrifier 3 without further ado. Guys, what are your initial thoughts on this movie? I understand that y'all did cover this earlier this year when it came out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They are apparently doing a re-release of it in the theater for Christmas.
Oh, that's good.
Good. Yeah.
Nice.
Which they should have just released it on Christmas to begin with.
Right.
But
That would have been brilliant. Seriously. I don't understand that.
I saw it in theaters when it came out.
Yeah.
And that was an experience. I went by myself to go see Terrifier after work. So yeah, that was fun. It kind of like set the mood, I guess.
Yeah.
yeah.
this is one of those that when we said we were going to cover it, I hadn't seen any of the Terrifiers. So I went and watched all the Terrifiers. I watched The Ninth Circle. I watched Hallows Eve. I watched all of them just to get reference with art and everything. And I mean, I enjoyed this movie. So
this is currently my number 3 favorite film of the year. I really loved this film. I saw it twice in theaters. I just picked it up on Blu-ray. So I really very much appreciate this movie, and I will I talked about it on Abyss Gazing, but Black Christmas is currently like the only movie that Christmas movie that I will watch and rewatch this time of year, and Terrifier is definitely probably going to enter that conversation in subsequent years.
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. We pretty much have the same experience, actually, because we watched through all 3 of these films, you know, back to back.
Yeah, we did kind of let the initial releases of the first 2 movies kind of pass us by a little bit.
Yeah, you've been talking about it the past few years, but we finally did Terrifier. We did Terrifier 1 as our season premiere, Terrifier 2 as a director's cut for Halloween, and then Terrifier 3 here for Christmas. So kind of just lined up in a row. This was my first time watching through all of these films, and yeah, it's a blast. I mean, here we are. This is the next generation of horror, Art the Clown, and I mean, this movie does everything that the first 2 movies do well, and even more.
Absolutely, and I will say, I mean, the intro of this movie is quite possibly one of the best intros I've seen in horror, probably since Ghost Ship.
Oh, it sets the tone.
I mean, it really does. I mean, it could almost be like its own short film in its own right. You know, I mean, it's literally Art decides to visit a family around Christmas, and it has pretty much everything that you would expect in a holiday slasher. All the tropes are there. You know, you got the killer Santa, Art. You've got a family asleep, and I don't think that it's Christmas Eve yet, but it's close to Christmas.
No, it is, because she's expecting
the opening is Christmas Eve.
Oh yeah, okay. The opening is Christmas Eve. So it's on Christmas Eve. I mean, it's like the presents are tucked under the chimney with care and whatnot, and then Art comes and visits them. And
how unfortunate, man!
How unfortunate. Yeah,
and we mentioned this in the Black Christmas episode that we did over on y'all's side, but it immediately sets the tone for the fact that nobody is safe in this film.
Absolutely,
Art kills fucking kids. You know, right there at the opening.
Yeah, I think his first victim is the older brother of the little girl. He just walks in there and just absolutely wallops him to death. I
gotta say, most of the time, you know, when Art does his brutal ass kills, you know, I laugh along with it because his expressions are genuinely hilarious, and it's so over the top. But when it comes to things involving kids, that does get to me. Especially the parent walking in and finding their kid. I'm like, oh, that would be horrible, man.
Yeah, the aftermath of that attack is very brutal, you know. But also her husband being killed right next to her. It's just oh wow.
Yeah. You know, as a dad and ex-husband, you know, that got to be a little bit, you know, I was like, wow, yeah, that would suck. But then you kind of just see Art just making these ridiculous expressions, and you can't help but laugh still.
Oh yeah, Art's having a blast, right?
Yeah.
This movie is surprisingly funnier than a lot of the other entries into the Terrifier franchise, where even rewatching it last night, I still was my wife was in the room. That would have been the first time she'd ever seen a Terrifier film, and she's just like, why are you laughing? And it's you know, you can't, it's art, dude. You can't help but laugh. Just there's expressions, you know, especially during the it's right before that mall explosion where he's trying to convince the security guard that he is Santa Claus, but he's doing it in this really stubborn way, and he's pointing up, and he's you know, look up there, it's me. Look up there, that's me. It's one of the best comedic deliveries in the movie.
Oh, just ask Ash I mean, if Robert was here, ask them. I was laughing my ass off at pretty much every single over-the-top, gory things. And honestly, that explosion is one of the funniest parts of the movie, honestly. that little kid, it's like a total fuck them kids kind of moment, right?
It's funny too, because when I was watching it again, I noticed like as the guard is escorting Art away, he's trying to like pantomime to him like that what's gonna happen. You see him kind of like gesture to it like, hey, it's a bomb, it's gonna go off.
So does that imply that had Art just been allowed to give out his gifts, that he probably wouldn't have given out the bomb?
He probably still would have.
Probably still would have, because it would have been funny.
It's Art.
It's Art. He would have amused him. You know, I mean, and that's the thing about these movies, but especially this movie, is that they're engineered to help the audience laugh along with Art. You're laughing with him on this, in almost every scene that he's doing something really over the top. You're laughing with him.
I kind of disagree, but I'm gonna let Billy go first. Then
I'm gonna reference back to when we did it in Abyss Gazing. I mentioned that I took my boys and one of their girlfriends with us, and we were watching it, and they're all as twisted as I am because they've grown up watching horror movies with me. But that one scene right there is the scene that everybody in the theater got quiet. It stopped. There was no laughing. There was nothing. It was just dead silence when that bomb went off, and more of a laugh.
I mentioned I've seen this twice, and the first time I saw it in theaters, I saw it with people that were all like us, right? They grew up in horror, love the genre, and like understands like where that kind of comedy is like interlinked and kind of like the over the topness. I saw the second time with people that did not understand the genre, and I was the only one in that theater laughing at some of this macabre stuff. And I was like, man, I like walked out of that screening. I was like, am I going to hell for some of the things I laughed at during this one?
I unabashedly laugh at gory stuff like this, mainly because, I mean, for one, I see it for what it is. I mean, it's all artifice anyways.
And it's also over the top that, it really doesn't bother you so much. I mean, it's like the same thing with Mortal Kombat, right?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. I mean, there's a morbid humor to all of the gory executions. There, and that's kind of why. I mean, I laughed at the explosion at the mall, because of course that's gonna fucking happen. It's of course he's gonna blow up a fucking mall at Christmas. It's like it's a joke where the punchline, only he really gets it. But even then, you're still kind of led to laugh along with him. Because in a way, it's almost like there's something that he knows that we don't about it that makes it funny. So you can't help it. It's infectious. You can't help but just kind of go along with that.
He's just such an endearing character that it works. I mean, there's that scene where like he walks into the bar and he acts like, it's like, oh, you're the real Santa. He thinks he's the real Santa. Like, there's this like childlike quality that just is like,
and that's one of my favorite scenes. I mean, the fact that they get onto him. Oh, you're supposed to drink the drink and not spit it in the person's face, and then he pisses on Santa Claus. I mean, right there, I was dying laughing at that.
Yeah, the bar scene was probably my favorite scene.
Yeah, and it also too like has like horror royalty kind of like lingered throughout it, where like Clint Howard has done so many genre pictures. I mean, most people know him from like the Ice Cream Man in '95, but it's a great movie. And then Daniel Roebuck, who's done so many zombie films in that together. And just I think my only complaint with that is, and we talked about it on Abyss Gazing, is the liquid nitrogen that you got to see. Like it's used way too soon. It's a great gag, but it comes way too soon. Whereas when you like look at the Terrifier 2, there he's building the baseball bat with like all of like the silverware, the knives, and the forks, and it's like a good 45 minutes before you actually see him use that bat. And here it's maybe like a good 10 minutes.
Yeah, and it is very obviously telegraphed, because I mean you see him do it with the rats, and you're like, okay, yep, he's gonna do it to a person. We already know.
I almost kind of feel like it would have been more effective if they didn't show him making the device, because I mean it always kind of felt like that bag that Art has, it's total kind of hammer space in a way, right?
Yeah,
you know, he can he kind of like Santa's actual sack in a way. You know, like I mean he can pretty much conjure up any torture device that he wants. So I in many ways I feel like it would have been more effective and funnier if he would have just happened to pull out this weird device with liquid nitrogen and just use it. Just look at just look at Santa like, oh, what is this?
You know,
it's like, what can I do with this? It's like, you know, that would have been funnier.
That might have been better, but it does sort of build anticipation. Like you're like, okay, we're gonna get to see him use this later, which is kind of cool. So I understood why they did that. But yeah, maybe if they waited a little bit longer in the movie, like you said, Josh, you know, kind of where you're waiting for it to happen, and you're waiting for it to happen, and then okay, here it comes. Like you get that kind of builds that anticipation a little bit if they were going to go that route.
Absolutely.
But Mark brought up we're talking about it now, but he brought up the bar scene being one of the best scenes in this film. And from like a comedy standpoint, the fact that Roebuck as Santa is like big pimping, where like all of these like younger girls are like trying to get him, and you just kind of see that juxtaposed with Clinton Howard trying to get with them, and she's like, oh, I bet you have a big chimney. He's like, I got a chimney. He's like, no, I got a Santa's like, I got a wife. He's like, my wife is dead. And like you just kind of see like how desperately he's like trying to connect with these. It's one of the best scenes, like one of the best back and forths in this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then just the kill scene itself. I mean, the way that it starts, for one, we have Art once again using his pistol. Just bust out a Glock and just bam, just kills Clint and the bartender, you know?
Yeah,
and then
that's something we talked about in the Terrifier 1 episode. Like when Art just pulls out the gun, you'll notice there's just no smile on his face. It's like it's the same as when he kills homegirl from the first Tara. Was that her name?
I think so.
Yeah.
It was Tara. Yeah.
The Vicky's sister. Yeah. He I mean, there was a point where, you know, he was just sick of her shit. Like she was not entertaining to him anymore. So he just point blank pulls out a gun. He doesn't play with her, right? There's no smile. There's a similar expression on his face as he kills these two guys. I mean, I guess at this point, Art was just, no, this is not fucking fun anymore. He walks up and then, you know, the Santa guy himself, just sort of,
David Roebuck. I mean, his performance when he's strapped to that chair is, I mean, you actually do feel for him. You really do.
Yeah.
He's like, I mean, he's really humanizing himself, you know, but you also know that Art's just not going to fucking care about that. He doesn't. I mean, just earlier he was all giddy like a child thinking that this was really Santa, and now he's torturing him with bats and liquid nitrogen.
And
it's like
you see the point where he's done enough to make Art actually entertained again, and you see him like smile. So you're like, oh, okay, no, I can have fun with this guy. I don't know what his criteria is, but
exactly. Yeah.
That, I mean, the unpredictable nature of Art is, I think, what makes him such a terrifying villain, and also such a throwback. Like we talked about this in the Black Christmas episode, where it's like, you know, when you move into the age of like the early 2000s to like even more modern cinema, especially in genre, we think we got to explain why evil is evil. And when you look at a villain like Art, he feels like a throwback to where, you know, we talked about this in our series of episodes on Terrifier. I don't remember if it was Terrifier double feature or the Terrifier 3, but the fact that like the intro, like they didn't really know what Art was going to be, and then by the time that he's reintroduced into the second one, he's like reborn as this demon, and they're kind of explaining that. And, you know, but again, when you look at possession films and when you look at supernatural horror, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to demons. Like you don't know how they're going to gonna act, and it's not all like completely unpredictable, but like for the most part, like it's a lot more unpredictable than just a guy in a clown costume.
Yeah, there's a few scenes where he actually kind of doesn't. He just lets some people go, which is always surprising when he does that.
Yeah. You're right. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's just Art's whim.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, maybe he might actually like you. He might let you go. You know?
And Josh, I think, you said something about how, like, you don't really need to explain evil. And I think, that's something I found myself questioning, because for the first couple of films, for some reason, I'm thinking, like, well, what's his motivation? Why is he doing all this? And then the more I thought about it, like, there doesn't need to be a reason.
It's because
he's just
funny.
a psychopath.
It's because it's funny to him. It's as simple as that. That's as simple as Art's motivations get, other than, any type of supernatural demonic entity influencing him, is that he just thinks this shit is funny.
In fact, I almost wonder if, because of like part of me wonders if, like, in the first Terrifier, like, Art was just a regular dude, and then they resurrected him for Terrifier 2, and so now he's like this immortal entity, and then, like, you see him get possessed at the end of 3. I don't know what's going on there. It's like they're giving us a little bit more lore dump, but like not enough to really satiate your curiosity. You're like, oh, okay, so you're still not really going to explain it yet, but
well, like they kind of hinted at the fact that he's kind of like the minion of a demon.
Yeah, with the pale girl.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever seen, if you go watch Night Circle and all that leads into this, it kind of leads into the fact that he serves a demon and he's supposed to serve the people up to them to stay the way he is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I understand, that he needs to have there needs to be like a conduit, and that's what Pale Girl and what Vicky become. They're like the demon's conduit to actually, I guess, allow Art to do what he does.
Mostly, we still don't actually know, like, the exact nature of their relationship, and there's so many questions. Like, every time they're on screen together, there's moments where she seems to annoy him, but he's not going to do shit about it. So, does he serve her? Does she serve him?
There's that moment where he's coming back to his little hideout, and Vicky's just all on about her bullshit, and he has this look like on his like, oh, this is what I'm going to have to deal with. Fuck.
And then they hibernate for 5 years. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah. Why exactly 5 years?
Well, it wasn't exactly. It was until they were disturbed by the dudes, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. The dudes just came and fucked with him, and then they were reanimated.
Yeah, so, like, were they just going to chill until something happened?
I mean, a nice little scene of masturbation.
Oh, yes. That scene was hilarious. That's another funny fucking scene, because it's just like, oh, I mean, how else can you react to that other than to laugh? It's so over the top that you just have to.
It's one of the scenes in the movie. I think that's I think you heard when this movie came out, like, all the people were walking out. Mm-hmm. And the rat scene, I think, are the scenes that they're referring to, that people walked out or threw up.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if people walked out on the mall scene.
Oh, no, I don't. They weren't making it that far. They were leaving on that scene that Mark mentioned.
Oh, okay.
It was written in the editorials that that's the scene that they were referencing.
When I saw it, we saw one of the only plays showing it out here was like an IMAX. It was kind of funny. So we had a guy answer his phone like in the middle of the movie and just get up and walk out. It's like, and never came back.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
God damn
And
it.
it was like, dude, if it was a bother, you should have just been a bitch and been like, I'm a bitch, and walked out.
Right.
But in his case, he like faked a phone call and left. It was like,
oh my God.
Yeah, no, that's even more like that's like, yeah, now I'm like,
my man. It's like my guy.
My guy.
Come on now.
I wouldn't have thought anything of it, but now you made a point about it right now. That's funny.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple scenes, that are going to make you wince, but nothing really that's just that's gonna make me like throw up or whatever,
Yeah.
Like we said before, it's also over the top that it's, you kind of got to just laugh at the absurdity of it.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm just that season of a gore hound that, I mean, a lot of this stuff just silly to me,
There's there's nothing that like I think tops the bleach and salt scene from the second one.
Oh yeah.
I felt the same way. There's nothing that tops that really, and I was expecting a kill that was gonna top it, right? Like they set the precedent with the last two films. You know, like you're gonna have that one kill that's the centerpiece of the film, and I guess that's the chainsaw scene, which is great. But yeah, I don't feel like it was as good as, you know, it doesn't top the previous one.
I feel the chainsaw scene was a little indulgent.
I kind of felt like the chainsaw scene was like, yep, see, we can fuck up dudes from the crotch first too.
Yeah. Well, like going off of that, Leone like went on and like talked about like how he would watch films from like the more modern that would use chainsaws and be like, you know, I could do one better. But he felt like the chainsaw kind of was this like sacred gag that you can't quite touch because of the ceiling that Leatherface set for it, and subsequently Evil Dead to follow. So he's like, if I do one, it's got to be, you know, I've got to prove myself first, and then I'll do it.
Okay.
And
yeah,
is you know, one up the crack of a dude like after shower sex, like it's fine. It's not my favorite gag in this one. It's probably far from it. It's a fine gag. Like I understand and respect like his decision to kind of be like earn the respect of the horror community before like wanting to go that route, but it's fine.
I mean, I mentioned in our podcast when we did it, and I referred to Terrifier 2 also, that with art, balls are not safe.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, where this movie didn't really top art's brutality, you know, didn't really raise the bar anymore with that.
Right.
I think what it did instead though was, again, it set the precedent that nobody is safe. You know, even kids are gonna die. Which I know in one of the short films he killed a couple kids.
Yeah, I believe so.
So I mean, he's done it before, but yeah, this is the first time in you know a feature length film. So I mean, like I feel like that's where they kind of up the ante. But yeah, there really aren't any scenes that really outdo. I mean, probably the worst one is probably like the rat one.
I think it was the actor that plays Art talked about that was the one scene that he had trouble taping, was the rat scene.
I think because he has a thing against rats, I heard, right?
Yeah.
David Howard Thornton.
He's apparently very phobic of rats. It's like, I can kind of sympathize.
I feel it. I mean,
yeah, I don't find rodents that freaky, but I mean,
it is a good gag though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad, there were rats.
So apparently, and I didn't go in and read the full article, but apparently the writer has talked about that there's one line he won't cross. Does anybody know what that was?
I haven't really heard anything about that. So
I'd be interested to know.
I don't know.
I came across the article, but didn't have time to sit down and read it.
Is it anything involving like fetuses? I mean, I don't see why that would be a line. I mean, you know.
I'll look it up right now.
All right,
see if I can find.
I'm reading the article right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
He says, so this is a quote that he told Variety. He says, "I'm always looking for lines to get up to push the boundary, maybe just step right over it." However, he says the limit for what he puts on a screen lies when children get involved, which is probably the reason that like you have like employees also, because I mean, kids do get blown up in this one, but he goes on to say, but when you absolutely fall into a level of extreme distaste that I'm trying not to do, there's a scene in the beginning where Art murders a child off screen and you just hear it. I could have shown it that and the glorious way that we executed that scene, but I would never do that because to me, that's completely off-putting and you're going to alienate a large majority of your audience. It's like you're trying to shock the audience so much that it just becomes desperate. I think it's my job as an artist to try and walk the line in a more interesting way and a more responsible way, end quote.
Awesome. I mean, that sounds understandable.
I like the way that he did that. I like the way that they didn't show it because even you've seen all the art murders before that. So you can imagine all the different things he's doing, and they're using the sound effects to it. That you can use your own imagination like you do in a lot of other slashers.
Well, also, we do see the aftermath of what happens to this kid.
Yeah.
And
that you never actually see the kid get murdered.
No, but I mean, but that's just more effective, because I mean, it kind of goes back to, like the old school slashers like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or, Black Christmas even, where, it's not about what's shown on screen, it's about what's implied. It's that old approach to kills and horror.
I think it's largely more effective.
So it's way more effective. Yeah. I mean, there's some instances where you want to go full ham, balls to the wall, and just fuck some shit up. But sometimes it's about what you can get your audience thinking about. That's more effective.
No, you're right.
Well, we talked about that in the Black Christmas episode too, is whereas like Bob Clark originally wanted there to kind of take that violence that existed originally on screen, say like, hey, let's put this behind a curtain and let's be subtle with this. And I think sometimes, like, no, don't get me wrong, I love gore. I love to see how creative we can get when it comes to practical effects and how bloody we can get it. Substance is an incredible movie, but when I think there's something to be said when you kind of take that behind the screen and are able to put a curtain up and you kind of get to see the after effects of it. I think that the way that it's done here with the bomb and also the kid in the beginning, I think are very tasteful in what they're doing. And they're more effective in that way.
I mean, even the way that they approached the bomb explosion itself. I mean, you do have a kid opening the present, and that's what triggers it, but you still don't really see what happens to the kid. You see just a flash, and that's about it. It's not like, say, Dead Presidents, where we see a person blow up on screen, because of like a mine or something. Yeah. But we still see the aftermath of it, though.
Right.
We still see the little bit of the charred remains of the kids, and it's kind of the same approach, just kind of more obscured this time, like effectively with the effect of the explosion.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, grew up on Mortal Kombat and all that stuff where you're getting all the gore and everything for the video games. That was like one of the early ones. And sometimes we've gotten all that for most of our life that they just, like everybody said, it just shows it to you. Here it is. Sometimes taking away that visual and just using the sound effects and everything can make you think of something even worse than what they're going to put on screen.
Yeah, exactly. That they can put on screen, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you remember back in the day, they did make a big deal over the original Mortal Kombat.
Oh, yeah.
I know they did.
To the point when they released the home versions, you actually had to put in like a
blood code.
Sheet.
Yeah.
To make it turn on blood. It wasn't even an option. You had to put in a code to make it open it up so you can do it.
I think on Genesis it was Abacab or something like that. There was a couple of different ways. Yeah. But I mean, even so, I mean, you still get a good little amount of gore in this movie. Obviously, it is a Terrifier 3 movie. It is a Terrifier movie.
It's a Terrifier Christmas.
It's a Terrifier Christmas. I like that track. I mean,
and the next one's supposed to be a Thanksgiving movie.
It needs to be exactly. It needs to be a Thanksgiving movie, like what, or an Easter movie. We need a good Easter
movie.
We need a good Easter-based horror movie that isn't just an occult film.
Yeah,
or Mother's Day movie.
Well, there is Mother's Day. I mean, but I mean that's not that's more of a home invasion movie though, or something like that. But yeah, what's other than what we've talked about? What are some other notable gore effects in this movie? Like, I mean, we have at the end of the movie we have the uncle being nailed up on the wall in a crucifixion pose, completely mutilated. Yeah, we have, of course, the aforementioned shower scene, which, like I said, I feel is a little indulgent. you know?
And during the final battle, Sienna's face getting pushed into the guts of her uncle.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite scenes.
And then using the intestines to choke someone.
And then she has to bite through them.
She has to bite through it. Man, that's my final girl right there. She always kicks ass.
Once again, subverting expectations there, because if you remember, like even in the first Terrifier, they subverted the whole
the final girl.
In the Terrifier, in the first Terrifier,
Terrifier, like they kind of subverted the whole final girl because you thought it was a different girl, right?
Yeah, they subverted that, but they also subverted the whole gag of being suffocated by plastic wrap.
Oh,
that's what I was getting at.
Oh, okay.
They subverted that. They kind of subverted the same thing with the intestines there, because I mean, I think that there's been a few movies where intestines were used to strangle somebody. I'm pretty sure.
Well, I'm sure it's also used to decorate the trees in this one too.
Yeah, that's another thing. If I remember correctly, the Black Christmas remake had a gory Christmas tree that had entrails all over it and a decapitated head as the star and everything. Did they do that in the tree in this movie? Did they put a decapitated head on top?
Yeah, they did.
They did. Yeah, awesome. They did the uncle's head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah. I will also say we talked about the bar scene, but from a comedic standpoint, not necessarily a gore standpoint.
Yeah.
The sheer fact that the robot character has liquid nitrogen that's like freezes him, his face gets smashed in, and then Art like kind of like stands back and he's like looking at his work, and then he like leans forward. He's like, you could tell he's like it's missing something.
Yeah, exactly.
Takes the carrot and like puts it right in his nose. It's kind of like have a scarecrow or a snowman. Wrong season.
Yeah.
But you were talking about the last scene and everything. There's a fact I read the other day online about the actress that plays Sienna.
Mm-hmm.
She for that scene where she's taped up in the chair, she told them to put more tape because she wanted it to feel more real. And when she did that, she broke the chair when she was doing it. They got the other chair out because they only had two. They said, this is the only chair we have. You can't break this one. And I sent that in our group chat because we have a group chat that we constantly talk. So.
Same with us.
Honestly, I mean, Lauren LaVere is kind of a unit like that, dude. I could believe that she would just completely go full on out and just be like, just hulk her way out of a chair.
Fuck yeah.
I can absolutely believe that.
You survived the most famous serial killer since Jack the Ripper. The 5-year anniversary is coming up. I think a lot of people would really like to hear from you after all this time. Want to know what it's like to be in the presence of that kind of evil. What goes through your brain when he's close enough to you. You feel his breath. I saw him today.
Who? How can you be sure it was really him?
I could feel it.
Who is this Santa? He's scaring my kid.
Yeah, he's scaring me too.
Hey, Santa's handing out presents!
Why would he come back here? Even if he was alive, which he isn't. Wouldn't you want to get as far away from here as possible, as far away from you?
We both know this isn't over. I have to go back to the Terrifier.
It's still buried there, isn't it?
It might be the only thing that could stop them. Looking forward to the best Christmas ever, filled with fun, smiles, and laughter.
Hell yeah. I mean, like, yeah, just like in the second film, the ending of this one is very similar to the second film. But
the ending.
Yeah, but like, you know, she does like that feeling of her like fighting back is really satisfying. Like, you know, how the fuck do you like it?
It's satisfying, but I'm not going to lie. At least like both viewings of this movie, the final act kind of fell through for me a little bit.
It is very samey.
It's samey in the way that, I mean, it's also not nearly as epic as the ending of Terrifier 2, I believe.
It didn't. But like for me, rewatching it this time around, it reminds me a lot of that final scene from Scream where they're all at Stu's house, and the kind of the chaos involved, and you just kind of take this like really simplistic setting and try to figure out like how can we make the most of this. And I think they do a really good job. I do think that scene's probably a little bit over bloated than what it needs to be, but I think overall I think it's effective in what it's going to do. I love the fact that every time Art would walk past Sienna, he's like just kind of like gives her that like little tap on the head, and it's like it's that running gag throughout the course of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, the scene does fuck with you. They show you the head and they make you think it's Gabby first.
Mm-hmm, a little misdirection there.
And then they tell you that it's Jonathan. Now I got to ask you guys, do you guys think Jonathan's really dead?
I don't know. That's kind of getting into my next issue with how the ending plays out, is that I feel it's actually very rushed. Like, and the biggest reason it's rushed is we don't really see what happens to Elliot. And I feel like that just it's just kind of a way for them to kind of, all right, let's hurry up. Let's get to this final torture scene.
Well, it happens off screen, yeah.
It does. And I mean, I don't know if her brother is alive or not. I mean, for all we know, that could be someone else, you know.
What do you guys think?
It could be this. It could be David Roebuck's character for all we know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Could have been any of them, right?
Yeah, it could have been any of them.
That was my thought, was wondering if it was really the brother or not, but he was over there at the school and took out the roommate and his woman. So
yeah, he was there. So yeah, and he did end up killing the uncle who was also there. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that you can just logically deduce that probably he's dead. You know,
I think that, and I share this on our, but my theory when it comes to Elliot, I think the reason why he's in this script as little as he is because that actor has like, I don't know if any of you guys follow him on social media, but he's like very passionate about music and
yeah. If I understand, that was his shtick before Terrifier 2, is that he interviewed like a lot of metal guys from metal bands and everything growing up.
Yeah, so his like that's like his passion. So I think that he was kind of a little bit like hesitant on like kind of coming back to it. Or like maybe his schedule didn't allow it. So like for me, I think it is Jonathan. I think they just needed a way to like write him out of the script because he's in it for like 4 scenes.
Roughly.
Like
he's not in it much.
Yeah, when you look at when you look at it from the first one, and I mean, even so, like I think maybe he looks at like Terrifier 2 and like the success that came with that, and maybe he just wasn't ready for it. You know, and so maybe he kind of has that like I don't know if I really want to return to this kind of thing.
Which is interesting because he's one of those rare examples of a social media type person actually kind of crossing over into something like acting and actually kind of excelling at it. You know, I mean, he was arguably, him and Lauren Rivera are like, and David Howard Thornton, those three actors are like the best part of Terrifier 2. So, I mean, he actually kind of transcended the whole, you know, social media star thing. And I mean, if he wasn't ready for it, he wasn't ready for it, you know? I mean, and I understand that, and I'm fine with it, honestly.
Hey, Bo.
What?
Don't let it slip away.
He was what? He was a teenager in real life in the first movie, right?
Yeah. So he's also, he also too, like, looking at his like credits here, he really, outside of Terrifier, he's got a voiceover role and then like 2 other like bit parts. But like Terrifier's like his like main shtick. And it's not to say that like he's a bad actor. I think that like he had this idea of like wanting to do a film and then like was contractually obligated to come back and just kind of really wasn't as passionate about this as he was when he started shooting Terrifier 2.
My point was going to be, how many of them child actors and teenage actors do you see ultimately end up becoming addicted to drugs or crazy and so on? And he's kind of seems to be getting out of it early enough that he may not go that route.
I think he wants to go kind of in other directions where, like, you know, following the release of Terrifier 3, I mean, here you have this like much anticipated film that was like a juggernaut, taking down Joker 2 at the box office.
I mean, from what I understand, that wasn't too hard.
Needless to say, like, one way or the other.
But you know, that's still a huge thing that this little like independent film that took $2 million to make like crushed a film that had a recognizable character that was also anticipated. But, you know, he did the press junket, he's done the convention circuit, but here he is like also promoting like music and like things that he's like really passionate about.
Yeah.
And so I think he's just kind of like wanting to like shift completely, you know?
Yeah. The good thing is, though, is that from what I've seen of him on social media regarding Terrifier, is that the cast themselves, especially the core of, you know, Thornton, Lavera, and him, and Leone, they seem to have made their own little family out of it, you know? I mean, they actually seem to be pretty close to each other whenever they're out on press junkets and on the convention circuit and everything. So, I mean, it's definitely not anything to do with that. So I could totally see why he would probably just want to, you know, try some different ventures, you know? I'm sure maybe he makes, I mean, does he make any music? Because, I mean, he obviously wants to kind of focus on that and everything, which I respect as a music producer. I respect that.
If Robert were here, he would say he's got to be the next Johnny Valentine. Robert's supposed to be here. We got a mic set up for him and everything, but I guess he had some parts to go pick up in town or something. So.
Something related to some mechanic stuff.
Have we ever had an episode, like a crossover episode with you guys where Robert showed up since the Grinch?
Once, and it was the Grinch,
Wasn't it Silent Night, Deadly Night, though? Wasn't he on that one?
He must have been.
I don't think so.
No, he was.
I know. It's actually kind of funny because it's specifically like the Christmas episode. Something usually happens, right?
I know, right?
God damn it, Robert. He's okay. He's coming back to Houston with me, and we're gonna go chill at my apartment for a month and.
Oh, fun times.
Yeah. You know, do blow and hookers and shit.
Yeah, blackjack and hookers and blow.
Yeah, exactly.
So y'all gonna make your own podcast, but with blackjack and hookers.
Exactly.
Amazing. But anyways, yeah, I mean, back to Terrifier 3. What were we talking about?
Blackjack and hookers.
I was going to say hookers, apparently.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Are there blackjack and hookers in this movie? I forget.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, there's those ladies that Santa is with, but that's about it.
Yeah.
You know, but as far as like the character Sienna, like she's going through some serious mental issues in this movie.
Oh yeah,
very, very serious mental issues. And you know, I mean, since we have you guys on here and mental health is your focus, I mean, what are y'all thoughts on what Sienna is going through there? I mean, it's really serious stuff, and it really manifests in some pretty ugly ways.
Oh, she's dealing with the fact that nobody's listening to her, for one.
Yeah.
She's having hallucinations and very clearly heavily medicated.
To a degree, I agree. I think a lot of the hallucinations may also be survivor's guilt as a way.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't say what the hallucinations were from.
Shame. Shame. Yeah, I really love the way that like Leone kind of tapped in. It's part of the reason like I'm such an apologist for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is that movie has this like correlation where it's like we're gonna take these trio of characters that were at the center of this tragedy and really explore what this did to their mental health and to their well-being and how it changed them as individuals. And I love the fact that you get that here with Sienna, and you also kind of get it with Jonathan, but it's more predominantly in Sienna, where you can see that she's like really struggling. And at the end, I mean, she's like having these like weird visions of like, you know, kind of being this like guardian angel, this battle angel, where we get that awesome throwback to her father and kind of like the knock at the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think also too, like she's not only having that kind of go on and all of the processing of the trauma, you know, how fucked up she is from it, but like also you're kind of like being forced to like your reality that you knew as your reality is like wrong, you know, in a sense. And now you're like coming to find out that, oh, I am apparently actually a conduit for something supernatural that's going to, you know, fall off bad.
Yeah, kind of brings it back to something like Hereditary, which has a similar thing, you know, with supernatural elements, you know, pretty much fucking with the overall mental health and livelihood and cohesion of a family, you know. But I mean, here it's a little more compartmentalized, a little bit more towards, you know, Elliot and Sienna.
Well, and what made Terrifier 2 much better than Terrifier 1, in my opinion, was the fact that we had this focus on the mental health of the family after a tragedy. So to see that get explored in different ways here is, and in response to different tragedies now was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, especially going to that scene where Sienna is confronted by the podcast girl, which we will get into here a little bit.
The podcast girl.
Oh God, it's like, I mean, that brings out some real ugliness out of her, but understandable ugliness because I mean,
fuck her.
Like you said earlier, is like nobody's listening to her. You know?
Yeah, and then you know, just fucking like, oh yeah, like she did it. You know, like just.
Yeah, you know, that baseless speculation that can happen on certain true crime podcasts. You know?
Yeah, you almost kind of wonder like if something similar happens in real life, you know.
Oh, I'm sure it does. You know, I mean, think of the true crime podcasters in Halloween 2018. You know, and how they were portrayed. You know, and the way that you know they interacted with Jamie as Laurie Strode and everything. You know, like I mean. It's like they want to get their scoop and everything, but there's also a little bit of this weird parasocial thing that happens there, you know. And that's really what we kind of go into with the podcast girl. I don't remember the character's name. I don't think you're meant to, but but she's. I mean, she just has no care for Sienna's feelings or what's going on with her. And she's literally just fangirling over her. And it's just like, there's a time and a place for that, but definitely not with somebody who's been through what Sienna went through.
Yeah. Like somebody who's directly involved. Like you know, like that's.
Yeah. And it just kind of brings up some of the ethics of that kind of strain of podcasting. You know, it's like, I mean, at what point does, you know, the care for victims and the entertainment value begin and vice versa?
Well, that's a good point, you know, yeah.
So, I mean, it kind of brings up that kind of quandary.
Yeah.
I mean, there also, like, should not be that, honestly, in my opinion, like, is where you cross the line. You know, I understand that there's, like, a fascination with true crimes, but you got to understand that anytime, and I think that the scene between Sienna blowing up on Mia is perfectly captures it. You have to understand that, like, for the rest of us outside, we're not involved in that emotional stake, and we don't really it doesn't have any effect on us. However, if you are at a point where for those that are involved, whether you're talking about murder survivors, suicide loss survivors, people that have been deprogrammed and been out of a cult, anything along those lines, that has affected their mental health, and that has completely changed them. That is for them to talk about. And I think that with the, in the 80s, the expansion of like 24-hour news cycles, there's been this expectation that like we need to be 100% privy to every form of information, every form of crime. And with the growth of boom of the podcasts and the true crime and the Netflix, documentaries, I think that's kind of only worsened it over time to where like we really dehumanize people by chasing after these stories.
Good point. And the survivors have to be ready to come talk, and not you force them also.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, abyss gazing, I've spoken about my wife that passed away from cancer and everything, and Mark pulled me out of that. But I wasn't ready to talk. I wasn't ready to come seek out help. I wasn't ready to hang out with anybody. So if that person isn't looking for that, if they're trying to find their space to actually deal with what they're dealing with, you've got to give that to them. So I think she was 100% in the right to be the way she was, because it overstepped the boundary, even on my end, just seeing it from the other side.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like the brother seemed to be more in denial than anything else. Like he was ignoring everything that happened to try to move on.
He and Sienna kind of flip positions between this and Terrifier 2. Like it was the opposite way in the other movie, right? Like he was the one that was like, hey, here's this demon shit that you're apparently involved in, and she was like, nah, I don't want any part of that. Now, the tables have turned, and they've dealt with their trauma in different ways.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm curious how the Gabby thing's going to affect her now. I mean, Gabby going down in the hole and everything, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And everybody on the outside's going to look, because she's in the middle of a house that's got a bunch of murders in it because of her uncle and everything. And she just came out of the facility. So how's that going to look to the outside world versus where we're seeing her perspective?
Well, they've talked about doing possibly 5 movies total, but it sounds like the 4th may be the last one, from what I've been seeing.
Yeah.
So what my suspicion is, they're going to have her follow in the next one, and the next one's just going to be kind of more similar to the first one, with a little bit of story and more violence, trying to get back to kid.
We talked about like family ties and everything earlier in this podcast here. I'm wondering if they're grooming for Gabby to take over the Sienna, where she's the one because she had the sword and everything else. So is that a look ahead of maybe she's the one to step up next?
Maybe. I kind of had a weird feeling that the next step would be that she would become the demon conduit for Terrifier.
Yeah.
That would lead to its own kind of complex moral angle for Sienna to deal with, because she knows what she has to do to deal with this demon.
Yeah.
And if it's in Gabby, then...
Yeah.
They still haven't showed what happened to, was it the pale girl or whatever from the second one?
Yeah,
she wasn't even in this one.
Well, I think she was possessing Vicky. I'm pretty sure that was the pale girl demon.
Yeah. It is.
And I guess she's possessing Art at the end, maybe? I don't know. Or someone is.
I think they just kind of made the decision to give Vicky talking and for this one. But I mean, also too with child actors, you kind of have this like very limited window where you can do stuff, and like, you know, we saw that from like It 1 to like It Chapter 2, where at the Chapter 2, anytime there was like scenes, they were like awkwardly de-aged and just kind of looked like bobbleheads. But you know, when you look at like even like Rob Zombie from Halloween 1 to Halloween 2, they recast the kid that plays young Michael because the original kid from part 1 had aged too much. And so now that pale girl is kind of just a theory at this point, because you can't cast her in a sequel, because at that point she's going to be probably like 16, 17. Like there's going to be 6 to 7 years that's passed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And you kind of just lost it out unless you're going to recast it. I mean, that's the only choice.
Well, with that heavily makeup, it wouldn't be as hard to recast the character.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
Because Vicky, she was in all of them to begin with.
Yeah.
So she was there giving birth to Art's head at the end of the second one, while the pale girl was still present and talking and everything. So that's why I have trouble seeing her as just being the pale girl.
Yeah. You're right. That is how that played out.
It's interesting. Well, maybe they'll explain it in the next one. I mean, if this is going to be the last one, just as well, like end on a high note, make 4 solid movies and just kind of, you know, cut it there, I think would be perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of leave a lot of mysteries unsolved, because maybe that's kind of like the appeal, you know?
Yeah, like we still kind of don't really completely know how Sienna's dad really plays into all of this, you know, and how he actually foresaw everything that was coming. Yeah, you know, so there's going to be a lot of stuff that's still kind of left, like stones left unturned, I guess you could say, but
unless they turn them.
But I mean, who knows? I mean, that could be left alone. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, there's some sort of tie there that they haven't said what it is. He's got some sort of connection to Art.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, early beliefs, and I don't know if it is anymore. Early beliefs with Terrifier 1 or Terrifier 2 when it came out was that the dad was Art, but that's kind of, I think, been ruled out. I'm not 100%. Yeah. But that was a belief at the beginning, was he was Art.
I never really believed that, honestly. It doesn't really add up to me.
It's like a fun little theory to hear, but
Well, now it doesn't.
Of course, now it doesn't. But even then, I was just like, I don't know about that. It's like, maybe.
This is my first time hearing it. That's actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed it didn't manifest. I mean, now like retrospect, it feels kind of weird, but like when you look at it from like, you know, 2 years ago before we got in there, I was like, dang, this would be like so sick.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, hell yeah. I guess we'll probably get into our final thoughts.
Yeah. We're getting to that point where we can just go ahead and start wrapping things up, and we will go ahead and start with the Abyss Gazing. Go ahead, y'all.
Mark, Billy. Yeah.
Mark. Yeah.
What about me?
Final thoughts.
Gotcha. I mean, the Terrifier movies and all are just a fun murder fest that aren't for everybody, but just fun in general. And Art has pretty much secured his legacy as one of the top horror villains, up there with Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers at this point.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
What a story, Mark.
I mean,
I'm sorry we had to. We got to slip in that reference.
Well, what a story, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
No, I enjoyed it. This is one of the top series I like, and I think this is one of the best movies that come out this year. I think Josh may have said that earlier, but I kind of agree, because we've seen some of the other movies, and they just don't stand up to this one. So,
Yeah, this movie's it's great. It's probably I feel like by this point we've kind of adopted this tradition amongst us at Abyss Gazing, where like there'll be a new Christmas movie that comes out, we'll review it, and there's a couple other things that are okay about it. But few really fail to kind of leave a lasting impression. This one does. This one stabs you in the side and then twists the knife, and I think it's just it's grotesque, it's beautiful, and there's not a whole lot that I feel like you can say otherwise.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Well said. As for me, I think Terrifier 3 takes, everything that worked with Terrifier 2, which, it took everything that worked with Terrifier 1, right? And kind of improved on it. One thing I think we talked about last time was the runtime of Terrifier 2. It didn't bother me, but I know for some people, if it ran a little long. So, I do think that this film was a little bit better paced. And, it's balls to the wall. Again, it may not necessarily outdo its previous entry as we expected in terms of, brutality and gore. It does find other ways to up the ante. It's another fucking great movie with Art the Clown to get to kind of just showcase, show us what art is capable of. And let's put that in a new setting now. Let's set it on Christmas. Fuck yeah. All right. I'm here for it, man.
Hell yeah. Now, as for me though, like I said, the intro is quite possibly one of the best intros I've seen in a horror movie, like since Ghost Ship. And Ghost Ship is a great premise for an intro that could work as its own short film. And the intro to this movie is kind of similar, and then it leads off to some other really cool kills and also a little more world building, and we do get to know the characters a little better, and everything. But for me, the third act just kind of falters a little bit. It doesn't bring the movie down completely. It still makes this a fun and rewatchable movie. But I feel like the ending is rushed a little bit. And if you go back to what people were saying about the pacing of the first movie, it's like, yeah, it was overtly long, but I feel like it did kind of flesh things out a little bit better, especially building up towards its end, and it really earned its ending, and it earned the epicness of its ending. And this one, be it through contractual obligations with Elliot Fulham or whatever, I don't know, but it just kind of feels like, it could have been fleshed out a little better, like the build up to it.
That's fair.
That's what I kind of feel like, but it's not enough to completely detract from the overall quality of the movie. David Howard Thornton is, of course, amazing as Art the Clown. He has made that his own, and as Mark said, is like an icon all the way through and through. He's up there.
He's an icon, man. He's the new icon.
He is the new horror icon. That's what I was telling Robert back when Halloween 2018 came. It's like, yeah, this is all great, but look at Terrifier. That's the future of horror there. The future of horror. And that has pretty much come to fruition. And of course, Lavera and Fulham are great. They are their whole character dynamic has always been one of the best parts of Terrifier 2, and it carries over here.
Yeah,
and I kind of feel like maybe that's why they really pushed the Gabby character a little harder, was because Elliot wasn't going to be in the movie all the way.
That makes sense why they would, because you kind of got to ask like why they're throwing this in now. It's good. There's chemistry between the two.
Yeah, Gabby is a great character.
You quickly pick up on the dynamic between the two. Hey, are close cousins. A lot of us have had close cousins,
Yeah.
So it's good. When you think about it, you're like, but why is it there? Okay, because that
actually lends some credence to what Elliot just kind of wanting to move on to other things, know. But ultimately, it's still some of its greater parts. It's a fun movie with lots of great kills, lots of interesting characters, some great cameos from horror royalty.
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of surprised we didn't see like Felissa Rose show up in here or something like that. Like that would have been hilarious. You know, I mean, I remember, she showed up very briefly in the second movie, but it would have been cool to see her have another cameo. You know, like she could have been like a Santa's elf or something.
There you go.
You know, but honestly, it's like, this is a great movie. It's just, don't expect much from the ending. You know, the ending leaves a little left to be desired.
Well, and it's a cliffhanger. You know, they're leading up to the next one this time, and intentionally. You know.
Yeah. I just think that could have been implemented a little better.
Yeah.
But
fair enough.
But anyway, yeah, that is our episode on Terrifier 3. We hope that y'all have enjoyed listening to this. By the time this is out, it should be Christmas Day. So yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. And guys, with Abyss Gazing and Victims and Villains, what's coming up on the itinerary with you guys? I understand that y'all are getting into hosting live music and everything, right?
Yeah, so we are doing a plethora of stuff. We have no events for the month of January, but we're returning strong with the return of Winter Horrorland Film Festival that will be held here in Richmond. Then in February as well, we're hitting the road with So Much Hope Buried. Yeah, and then you guys can also check out our film festival, Anchor Film Festival, Horrific Hope Film Festival, April 11th and 12th at the Winchester Alamo Draft House. But yeah, is anyone listening right now? We are going to be diving into more international films on our end.
Nice.
Abyss Gazing.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
Next year. We've got some great series that we're going to be covering next year, great trilogies as well. But you guys can find Abyss Gazing wherever you guys get your podcasts from. And victimsandvillains.net is where you guys can find all of the other amazing podcasts that we have on our podcast network, including That's High Praise, Brilliant But Lazy, as well as the Victims and Villains main feed. And then that will also get you links to all of our upcoming events, all of our social media, as well as movie reviews, and most importantly, our mental health resource library.
Absolutely. Nice. I mean, I gotta say, it is cool that you guys are getting into hosting live music and everything, you know, and helping local bands out and whatnot.
Yeah.
I come from a music background, so I mean, that's something that's really appreciated, you know, and especially if it goes towards a good cause. So yeah, it's like, yeah, good luck with all of that, man. I mean, I've done some live sound myself, so yeah, I mean, I understand all that goes into, you know, pulling off a show like that. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we always appreciate what you guys do. Yeah, that's awesome stuff.
But yeah, anyway, Ash, what's going on with Collateral Gaming?
I'm glad you asked, Post. So for our holiday special, we are going to be reviewing the Grinch, the Dreamcast version of the game. We meant to do that last Christmas, so it'll be nice to actually go ahead and do that now this holiday season. Also, by this point, we should have out part 1 of our episode on The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, which is our content for Zelda month this season, finally getting into Ocarina. And then towards the end of the month, we will have part 2. Mr. Dan Rockwood will be joining us for that, who we met through the Victims and Villains podcast. And also in part 1 and in part 2 as well, we have Devin from the Last Video Game podcast joining us. So yeah. We'll have that out very soon, as well as our post-holiday bonus round. We usually during the holiday season we do our top 5 favorite Angry Video Game Nerd episodes, and this time it's season 3. So go check that out. And then of course in January we should have like our year-end review episode, and then our 50th episode on Super Metroid.
Awesome. Hell yeah. And with Collateral Cinema, by this point, our pass-through episode is out. That's our annual Neil Breen movie review. which we are coming up on maybe the last the last few of his movies, of his work. So yeah.
Well, all we got left is Kate, the Tortured Crossing,
and there is that 5-film retrospective that he did. We could always do that.
We can do that.
Yeah. And we're also going to have our second Bad Movie December episode out, and that's going to be Samurai Cop 1 and 2, and that was with Frank from Geek Freaks. So look for that coming out. And for our post-holiday edition, we are going to be diving into more Adult Swim content on the director's cut. We're going to be talking about the Tim and Eric Awesome Show Great Job Crimbus special. And yes, you need to keep your bush trim and moist. Moist and trim.
Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to do, bro.
No, they got to be moist and trim. and then after the first of the year, we should have our year-end review episode coming up. So yeah, look for that as well. And you can find us on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and the Dead Bird app. And also, we have our TeePublic affiliate link that should be in the show notes and everything. You can find all kinds of merchandise there, from hats to shirts to mugs to phone cases. I think even tapestries. So
we have many tapestries.
So yeah, check us out there. And we also have a Patreon with some film commentaries there, and buy me a coffee. So if you like what we do and you want to donate to us there. And you can also, we also do have a letterbox as well, which I failed to mention in our crossover episode with you guys. We have a letterboxd, and you can also you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, but mainly on Good Pods, where if you give us a 5-star review, you can help us climb the ranks of the indie film and movie podcast charts. You know, we're currently in like the top 20 right now, and Collateral Gaming, where I understand, is number 1.
Woo! Number 1.
Yeah.
Top 100
yeah,
indie video game monthly.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is so fucking cool.
Yeah, I feel good about it.
So yeah. So yeah, look for all of that.
And Collateral Let's Play. We are doing that on both of our YouTube channels, Collateral Cinema and Collateral Gaming. We have Phoenix Wright Wednesdays and Call of Duty Saturdays. This week, of course, we were taking a break from that, and instead we're going to be doing, it should be out same day, our Let's Play on Parasite Eve.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun.
Which is a Christmas video game. So
honestly, that's going to be an awful lot of fun.
We'll go through day one of Parasite Eve, and yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the new year, and we just want to wish everyone a happy holidays, or Merry Christmas, or
Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, or
Happy
whatever.
Festivus.
Happy Festivus for the rest of us. And anything else to add, everybody?
No, we're good.
All right. With that said, I was Bo Maddox.
I'm Ashley Chancellor.
I'm Josh.
I'm Billy. I'm here.
And this was the Collateral Cinema Holiday Special with Abyss Gazing. See you later, y'all. And be sure to leave your milk and cookies out for Art the Clown. He will absolutely appreciate them.
And clean the plate afterward.
Oh, yes, because he's very polite like that. Laters, y'all.
It's a jolly clown named Ivor. He's a Miles County legend with a smile that brings a chill. On a journey to outdo himself and top his latest kill. He'll melt your face with acid. He'll saw you clean in half. He'll peel the flesh right off your bones and shout with a silent laugh. It's a Terrifier Christmas.
Collateral Cinema is a Collateral Media podcast. All music and movie clips are owned by the respective creators and are used for educational purposes only. Please don't sue us. We're poor.